Marcy, Skylight, Gray, Cliff, and Redfield done. Now the long walk back to the lodge. 3:55 a.m., just signed in. Santanoni Range, let's go. The wind is whipping here in the Seward Range today. Just finished the Macomb slide and my legs are on fire. Well, I fell victim to the floating logs again. Made it to the top of East Dix. Peak number 3 of 5 for today here in the Dix Range. Avalanche Pass. On top of Rocky Peak Ridge. It's like a hurricane up here. Rain and wind here on Tabletop. Whiteface, number 6. Muddy day here on Street and Nye for number 7 and 8. Sunny and blue on Haystack. Algonquin, up in the clouds, number 18. Gothics, number 22. Panther, number 38. Allen, number 45. 7:12 a.m. Big Slide, Adirondack, 46er. You're listening to the 46 of 46 podcast. July 20th, 2018. On tap today was one of the classic High Peaks hikes, the Lower Great Range, Gothics, Armstrong, Upper Wolfjaw, Lower Wolfjaw, and the addition of Sawteeth. Around 15 miles, 5,500 feet of elevation gain, 5 high peaks, another big day indeed. Fortunately, the forecast called for another sunny bluebird day in the Adirondacks, perfect weather for this range. As always, my 3 a.m. alarm clock went off and I got ready for the day and was out the door heading to Keene Valley to St. Hubert's. Or is it St. Hubert? I don't know. I left my car and began the day at 4:30 a.m. again and started walking the dirt road towards the golf course where I'll make the left between the 2 tennis courts again towards the Trailhead Registry, same as before. My plan for today was to walk the entire lake road in the dark to the Sawteeth Scenic Trail, up over Sawteeth to Pyramid Peak, onto Gothics, then take the range trail over Gothics, Armstrong, Upper Wolfjaw, and finally to Lower Wolfjaw. Then head down via the Wedge Brook Trail to the West River Trail and back to the golf course. That was the plan for the day. So the day began with a 3-mile walk down the flat dirt road known as the Lake Road. Love it or hate it, you're gonna do it. Nothing to report here other than boring, dark dirt road. I decided to listen to some music during this stretch of the trail, so I had one earbud in and listened to some music to help make it go faster in my head. I passed many different trail junctions on each side of the road, but kept on walking since none of those were on today's agenda. I made it to the lake, or the East Branch Ausable River, at 5:40 a.m., an hour and 10 minutes from leaving my car. The 3-mile trip down the lake road was done, so I walked over the cool wooden bridge and quickly came to the trail junction I was looking for, where I would bang a Louie onto the Sawteeth Scenic Trail. The Scenic Trail is exactly that, scenic. It begins for a good half a mile walking along the Ausable River on rocks and dirt trails, all while enjoying nice views along the river. After a half a mile or so, the trail comes to outlook number 2 of 5, and from this point begins the climb. There are 5 outlooks on the way up Sawteeth, hence the name the Scenic Trail, and they're all welcome sights and great spots that help break up the ascent because you constantly have these little breaks and nice views to enjoy. The trail up Sawteeth wasn't anything unusual for Adirondack hiking, nice trail in the woods, but once up Sawteeth, the bulk of the elevation gain for the day is accomplished, so it did have me huffing and puffing a bit. But I eventually made it to the top at 7:45 a.m., 3 hours and 15 minutes from leaving my car. It was an elevation of 4,100 feet and has a smaller summit with trees you'll have to look over. But like every mountain today, it has massive views. This range actually has some of the best views you'll experience in the Adirondacks, period, in my opinion. I ate my Summit PB&J, gulped some Noon tablet water, and started the roughly 1.5-mile trip over to Gothics via the Sawteeth Trail, which would eventually meet up and merge with the Weld Trail, the AW Weld Trail. But first I had to go up and over Pyramid Peak to get there. Pyramid isn't considered one of the high peaks, but has arguably the coolest views of the day, in my opinion. It took me a little less than an hour to get to Pyramid, and it has front row seats of the slides on Gothics. Really cool views up close. Thoroughly enjoyed that part of the day. It was steep, though. It was a challenge. Going down Pyramid and up to Gothics was certainly a workout as well, and I knew once on Gothics I'd be smooth sailing for the rest of the day, so I went as quickly as I could. I had hiked Gothics many years prior with Josh, our buddy John, and his father, who we call Pooyee. Side note about our friend Pooyee, actually. The day we hiked Gothics, this man, this legend, hiked faster and easier than all of us, wearing sneakers and jeans. And, oh yeah, he was commando in those jeans. Yes, commando. So if you think you're a badass on the trail, think again. Until you hike high peaks with no underwear and a pair of jeans, you're not. You are not. Anyway, so having been up Gothics once before, I recognize the last portion of the climb once the Weld Trail meets up with the Range Trail for the final push to the summit as you leave the tree line and walk along the ridge. A great portion of the trail, and the views are 360 degrees all around you for the last section of the hike, one of the best summits in the high peaks. I finally made it to the true summit, marked by a geological survey marker in the ground, at 9:05 a.m., a little over 4.5 hours into my day, 4,736 feet of elevation for high peak number 22. Very important on this summit to stay off the alpine vegetation and do the rock hop. Stay on the rocks, everyone, and between the rocks. Gothics has great views of everywhere since the summit is so large and has lots of different areas to sit and hang out on. Definitely the place to have lunch and spend some time for the day. After hanging out for a few minutes, I saw a family approaching the top, and I shared a nice quick conversation with them. They had just come from Saddleback and were enjoying their first Adirondack hiking experience. Certainly couldn't have asked for a better day or a better range for that. So I chatted with them for a few minutes and then continued on my way over to Armstrong. I was anxious and excited to get to Armstrong because it would mark the official halfway point on my 46er journey. So it's just under a mile over to Armstrong, and one of the easier parts of the day as far as terrain and time between summits. I made it to the col relatively quickly and up at a good pace and came out on the summit lookout. I was excited because I was there. Armstrong, number 23 of 46. I was halfway there now. It felt great. At 4,400 feet, Armstrong will always have a place in my heart due to the feeling I remember having when I made it there. I felt very accomplished. I made it at 9:50 a.m., so it was about 40 minutes or so, give or take, from Gothics. Since I didn't eat my typical summit sandwich on Gothics, I decided to have a quick peanut butter and jelly. After about 5 minutes, I started hearing voices of the family I had just met over on Gothics in the distance. They were on their way. And with that, I decided to carry on so they could have the summit, and then we wouldn't have that same, hey, just saw you on the previous mountain moment, hey, yeah, just saw you over there, cool. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Seinfeld reference. So I finished the sandwich and I began walking. It's 1 mile between summits again. Getting to the col between Armstrong and Upper Wolfjaw is one of the more challenging portions of the day. I feel like it was steeper than the other peaks and has one major cliff climb down, or up depending which way you're hiking. That definitely requires being extra cautious as you can easily get hurt and absolutely fall to your death if not careful. It's a big cliff, but again, it's not too bad. There's also a nice big wooden ladder at the end that is very helpful. So once you get off the cliff, you're into the col. I made good time getting to Upper Wolfjaw and came to the boulder summit of Upper Wolfjaw at 10:30 a.m., just 6 hours into my hike for my fourth high peak of the day. The trip over from Armstrong clocked in at around 35 minutes to Upper Wolfjaw, which stands at 4,185 feet elevation. There was a gentleman and 2 teenage girls enjoying lunch on the peak when I arrived. They were hiking the range in the opposite direction that I was today. The man was a very experienced Adirondack hiker as I listened to his conversations with the girls as he was explaining what peaks were what in the distance and telling various hiking stories of his. Sorry to eavesdrop, but hey, they were good stories. It was at this point that I was ready to unload my secret weapon for the day. Something I had planned for the final summit, but since the other hikers had just left and I had the summit to myself, I figured, what the hell, it's time. So I put down my pack. I opened it up, and I pulled out the most perfectly crafted turkey sandwich on a toasted everything bagel the world has ever seen. I was thinking about this bad boy all day. Turkey, provolone, spinach, and some mayo with cayenne pepper mixed around it. I can still taste that sandwich. I mean, I worked at Subway all through high school, so I kind of know my way around a sandwich. My purple Subway shirts didn't have sandwich artist embroidered on the sleeve for nothing. That's all I'm saying. Once I came back from the heavens as I finished my bagel sandwich, it was time to go to the final peak of the day, Lower Wolfjaw. So I grabbed my bag and headed back down the boulder summit to the trail where I ran into 2 very uniquely dressed hikers. Dude number 1 was wearing sandals. Yes, sandals. And not flip-flops, but more like a medieval-style sandal that you'd see in the movie Gladiator, where there's kind of nothing to it. And his feet were so dirty and black by this point. Gross. And then about 20 feet behind Sandalman was his friend, who was dressed in his Sunday's best. Nice dress pants, hiking boots, a tucked-in long-sleeved button-up shirt buttoned all the way to the top, backpack and trekking poles. He looked slick, but it just seemed like an odd wardrobe choice for both function and even fashion, I suppose, on the trail. But hey, to each their own. I said to him as he passed me, "So is your friend always hiking sandals?" To which he responded, "Yeah, he's literally insane." So with that, I started the 1.4 mile trek along the range trail towards Lower Wolfjaw, which from Upper Wolfjaw looked like it was 10 miles away, with another small hump in between the two mountains. It was 0.9 miles to the trail junction for Lower Wolfjaw, so down I went. It was decently steep getting off Upper Wolf, and then steep again going down the backside of the hump the trail goes over, until you come to the Col and a trail junction with multiple trail possibilities. It's very important here to know where you're going once you get there. Left is the Wolfjaw Trail, which accesses the Wolfjaws from a different direction, so you don't want to go down that trail. Right is the Wolfjaws Notch Cutoff Trail, which will be a faster route to take you right to the Wedge Brook Trail, which is the trail we'll take to get back to the lake road later. And straight is the WA White Trail, which goes to the summit of Lower Wolfjaw. Straight is the correct answer for today. If you answered straight, you are correct. You are not the weakest link. From here, it's 0.5 miles to the summit, and you'll gain good elevation at this point. I made it to the top in exactly 30 minutes, as fatigue was definitely starting to set in. At 11:50 a.m., 7 hours and 20 minutes into my day. 5 high peaks and 1 bonus peak summited before noon. Not too shabby. Lower Wolfjaw stands at 4,175 feet and is tree covered with a lookout view over the top of some trees, so if you're tall enough you can see nice views over the trees. Probably the smallest and least exciting summit of the day in my opinion, so I'm thrilled at this point that I chose to eat my victory bagel sandwich on Upper instead of Lower Wolf. Man, was it the right call. So after a few minutes I turned around and headed back down the 0.5 miles to get back to the trail junction to the Wedge Brook Trail. After getting back in quick fashion, I took the left onto Wedge Brook and hurried down the mountain, passing hiker after hiker just starting for the day. Just starting. Classic late starters. I also instructed a woman hiking the Wolfjaws with her 2 sons, probably 10 years old or younger, which trails to take for the Wolfjaws, as she was a little confused where to go. Hopefully I cleared up her confusion and didn't add to it, but hopefully they made it okay. The Wedge Brook Trail goes down the mountain eventually along the, you guessed it, the Wedge Brook. So if you need to refill some water for the trip out, this is a good spot. Although once making it down the mountain, you'll come to the West River Trail, where there's also an abundance of delicious Adirondack River water. A windy trail through the woods eventually comes to the West River Trail, where I took a left to head back to St. Hubert's. This is a nice, long, flattish woods walk for almost 2 miles. Better than on the lake road. At the end of the day, I was extremely ready to be out of the woods, so on this day, this portion of the trail felt endless, however. Towards the end, once crossing over a cool bridge over the river, I saw some teenagers swimming in it, which looked awesome and is easily accessible as it's near the trail sign, and so I plan to go back there and swim at some point. I never did, but I plan on it. After crossing said bridge, I had no idea that the trail would end up coming out past the sign-in booth. So that was a surprise when I finally made it back to the trailhead. It comes out about 50 yards towards the golf course away from the trailhead sign-in. So I walked back to the register so I could sign out. It was a great feeling watching people sign in for the day as I was waiting to sign out after already summiting 5 high peaks as they're signing in for the day. Great feeling. So I quickly hurried back to my car and I arrived there at 2:30 p.m., clocking my day at 10 hours car to car. Lower Great Range plus Sawteeth, 10 hours. What a perfect day. And no blisters. Just the usual knee and joint pain, but what can you do? Nothing some sleep and vitamin I can't fix, am I right? Sawteeth, Gothics, Armstrong, Upper, and Lower Wolfjaws in the books. Another very successful solo day in the woods, hitting 5 high peaks and the coolest non-high peak bonus peak of the summer for numbers 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 on my quest to summit all 46 high peaks in one summer. We're now over halfway to 46. Next time on the 46 of 46 podcast, I'll finally tackle Giant and Rocky Peak Ridge, a hike I had been rained out of multiple times, only to, ironically, hike it in the rain and become my wettest trail day of the summer. That's next time on 46 of 46. Remember to leave no trace, do the rock hop, and if you carry it in, carry it out. See you on the trails. Lower Wolfjaw. 11:50. Started at 4:30. So a little over 7 hours to hit all 5. Now I got to go all the way back to St. Hubert's.